You're listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
Thanks to Concordia University, Wisconsin for supporting The Coffee Hour. Find out more about Concordia University, Wisconsin at cuw.edu.
Live uncommon.
So we've been talking about, I think we're on a back-to-school education theme this week.
Yeah, it's appropriate.
It's appropriate for those who are going back to school. Some students back in school already. And we have more learning to do. This time we're going to dig into creation with some really face-to-face opportunities to learn about creation. Joining us today is Scott Jairus. He's the director of the Homeschool Days at Missouri Association for Creation right here in St. Louis. Scott, welcome back to the Coffee Hour.
Thank you very much, Andy and Sarah. Appreciate being here.
I am excited about a little fun at the zoo, a little field trip to the zoo. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. But for our listeners not familiar with the Missouri Association for Creation, can you share with us what is the Missouri Association for Creation?
Yeah, so we were actually founded 50 years ago by a couple of Columbia graduate students and that who were looking for a way to be able to spread the gospel message and as well the creation message. They just really felt as though that evolution was really being bombarded on them right then, and so they kind of set that up and said they were going to start this. So that was the beginning of the Missouri Association for Creation, and so it really is an educational and a teaching organization that we have. So we take opportunities to be able to reach out to churches, homeschool groups, youth groups, whoever will listen, basically, and whoever wants to hear. But we'll come and we'll share the message of creation, how the world reveals the Creator, and then as well the truth of the Bible message, basically, and the truth of Genesis. I mean, if Genesis is true, everything stands on Genesis. So that's where we stand.
So how can a trip to the zoo for kids and maybe their parents as well, how can that be a beneficial thing when learning about creation?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So very much do the parents enjoy these talks of ours as well when we're there. So we go to the St. Louis Zoo and really, the way I explain it is that the zoo is really just an amazing. It's an art museum for God. When you go to an art museum, you see the painter these paintings, but it's all expressing something from a painter. And so very much the zoo is very much that way for God. As we start the tour, I always quote from Romans 1:20, where it says, "For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, listen, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse." So it is within creation itself that God displays these invisible qualities of himself. And I feel as though he is the largest evangelist we have. And he's right there with us whenever we proclaim him in the midst of creation.
So, Scott, tell us why the St. Louis Zoo is a great place to bring the Missouri Association for Creation Homeschool Zoo Tour and learn about creation with friends.
Yeah, so I think the main reason is that it's a world-class zoo. I mean, it's extremely well done, and they've got a great variety of animals here. Obviously, it's also free of charge, which makes it an excellent location. And then lastly is that we actually have a very large, homeschool population here also, and so that's just been a great thing to be able to have as an access. We've been serving 1,000 people, both adults and children every year since 2012, actually. So this is really our 10th year.
That's amazing that you've had that impact on so many people, and I love how you're talking about the zoo being a museum of artwork of God's creation. I love that imagery because God's creation is just it's so amazing. And if we stop to think about it and look at it and dig into it a little bit more, it just becomes even more and more incredible. What kinds of things are you able to do during this homeschool day at the zoo?
Yeah, so we go through, and every one of so we've got 7 different speakers, and each one of them is at a different animal, and they give like about a 10-minute talk about that animal, displaying design features of that animal. Be able to say, so the giraffe, how does the giraffe work? And really, you've got a long neck there, but it's got a very special heart. It's got very special arteries. It's got some very special features to it that really work together as a system to keep it alive. How does that work if you're missing one of those pieces, right? So you really have to have everything at once. So we're there to kind of explain things and be able to say, how would this ever evolve? Whereas what it really displays is the wisdom of God. And so many things like I said earlier, that Romans 1:20 passage where it talks about his invisible attributes are can be seen, clearly seen. So this is, and so men are without excuse. So men are without excuse in even knowing that there's a God, but even that, they know what that God is like. They know that that God is very wise, that God is very powerful, that God is very gracious and merciful. And so they know all that by what he's made, because he's made some amazing animals, and it just displays, like I said, his wisdom and his goodness. And so as we explain those animals, we talk about those things.
What's your favorite animal or exhibit to visit at the zoo, and what might we learn about that animal?
Yeah, boy, that's a tough one, because there are so many there. Like I said, I really like, I've been studying in the sea lions, and on that is really just an astounding animal that you really don't think about. But they dive down extremely long depths. They can hold their breath for 20 minutes. And Andy and Sarah, get this, when we go and we're going to go take a dive underneath the water, we take a deep breath. But get this, is that what they do is they exhale their lungs and then dive underwater, because air in their lungs is going to make them buoyant.
Mm-hmm.
And so they go under, and yet they can go under for 20 minutes. And it's like, wait a minute, we take the deep breath and we can go under for maybe a minute and a half. And it's just like, how do they do this? And so they have incredible capability to store oxygen in their muscles, in their brain, in their blood work and stuff like this. And then to be able to undergo these huge deep pressures as they go down under the water. And it's just astounding to see their design features, that they are designed to thrive and survive in that environment, whereas we wouldn't.
I can take a deep breath and go underwater about 1.5 feet deep for about 15 seconds. So
you would not make it.
I would not make it as a sea lion.
No.
Apparently God did not design me to function like a sea lion. So if we are a homeschooling or maybe a small school class and want to participate in this event, what do we need to know that in order to participate in the Missouri Association for Creation Homeschool Zoo Tours? Right.
So this fall we've got one. It's September 26th and 27th. That's a Monday and Tuesday. And you can contact me at the email address is MAC, M-A-C, for Missouri Association for Creation, but see Zoo Tour, all one word, at gmail.com. So if you send me an email, and I can send you other information and get you signed up to be able to come. You can bring your family, and you don't have to be a homeschooling family if you're just in the area and you want to come. Or if you're, like I said, a small class of students at a Christian school or even a public school, and you want to come, by all means, just send me an email. We also will have another one in the end of April coming up next year, and we'll duplicate this one that we've got. So that's the way to contact us.
Are there any ages that this is more appropriate for than others, or is this a whole family affair?
We say that you can come basically between 5 and 18 years old for the students is good. Obviously there is a range there of sometimes the later elementary and the early middle schoolers that have got a lot of questions, and they're going through a lot of these types of things. But honestly, yes, everybody, like I said, we've got parents that come and go I've never thought about it that way. I've never seen that in this. And the whole idea is then to be able to stir that up in their minds so that when they see these animals, it glorifies God just inside of their minds. They're just amazed by the animals, and ultimately that points back to how amazing God is in his wisdom in making them.
Very good. Well, it sounds like a fun event. It's coming up again this September. What are the dates and times this September?
Yeah, so the 26th and 27th of September, we've got one tour in the morning starting at 9:30. It goes till about noon, and then another one starting at 1, and it goes until 3:30. And then we've got the same thing the next day. So that's what we've that's what we've got, and that's, like I said, it takes about that long to really kind of go through the 7 different talks that we have.
Very good. Very good. Scott, thanks so much for spending some time with us on the Coffee Hour today, talking about the upcoming Homeschool Zoo Tours with the Missouri Association for Creation.
You're very welcome, Andy and Sarah. Thank you very much for having us. And by all means, if you give me an email, maybe you can come.
You're listening to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.